I humbly come back to you all. No, in all fairness, life happens. Life happens. And but the yaps never die. The yaps never die. And your girl has had some things to say, and she's back to say them in public. She's back to ruffle your feathers. But in any case, welcome back. I like to call these sessions Simo Night Live. Who gonna beat me? What y'all gonna do about it? That's what it's called. Okay. Welcome back to Simo Night Live, where we just have a little bit of a yap, a little bit of a chat about whatever is going on in this world. And truly just listen to me, maybe outwardly process some things. And the one that's inspired me, the one that I have thought very long and hard about in the last few months and have been confronting, I want to say, over the last couple of years, is the manner in which social media and the increase in accessibility around information has meant that people have learned the language of certain things, but they haven't necessarily learned what drives that language or where the language comes from. And so we have a bunch of cosplayers out there, and it's getting scary. It's genuinely getting scary because it's getting harder and harder to weed out through the people who are saying they believe in something just because they have the language for it, and the people who say they believe in something because they actually believe in something. So this is all super abstract, of course. Anyway, let's bring it back down. Okay. So I feel as though as an adult, and navigating making friendships outside of the confines of very curated spaces. So you obviously go to school, and then maybe you do your undergrad, and then maybe you do your masters or whatever, or at whatever juncture that I think you leave formal education. You leave behind what is typically a very filtered and curated experience that brings people who are similar to you in terms of, I guess, desires or values or whatever into the same room. And then you go out into the world, and now it's just free game. You're meant to be making mates with anyone. And something that I've really, really struggled with is wondering, do I just have really bad character judgment? Because I have found myself in dynamics, relationships, friendships, where I turn around a couple months later and I'm like, wait a damn minute. Wait a damn minute. This is not adding up. And recently, I think I found the language through conversations that I've had in a lot of the feminist spaces that I'm in. I have found the language to kind of describe what I think is going on. Nobody quote me, but also like knowledge and thoughts, me, I can come up with them also. Don't ask me for a reference. These are my thoughts. Okay. But I think what has happened, and I speak specifically towards the issue of forming community, formulating relationships, and the bedrock of forming those communities and forming those relationships, right? And this can be in both a personal circumstance, but also in a professional circumstance or in a movement circumstance. Coming from the feminist space, obviously I have to be able to contextualize it in that regard as well. But what often happens what I've experienced in the last couple of years, given that I've had to enter spaces without there being a pre-check, like a filter that's saying, okay, at least at a baseline, we've assessed that these people have similar values to you. What I have run into is a lot of people know the language around community and mobilizing and basically sounding good, but don't actually spend time trying to connect that to reality and their lived experiences. So you have people be like, your community is super important to me. It's just really important for me to have community. I think it's just important that, we have solidarity, all of these things. And then you're thinking, okay, that's a mate. Like, that's someone who I could really, we resonate. Like, we have similar value systems. If you don't have those value systems, it's okay. Just don't come and try and be my friend. It's actually fine. But what often happens is people realize that this is the language, they perceive it, right? Because I think in social media, all we're doing is perceiving. that's what we're doing, right? And I think people perceive this language being utilized and the people who utilize said language. And there's kind of an aspiration towards not even the material gains that they have or whatever, but really the human need and desire to have people around you, right? And so people see this language being used and they're like, aha, that's the language that I need to use if I want to have A, B, C, D in terms of community, friendships, whatever it is, right? But that language comes from somewhere. And that language oftentimes is positive in its delivery, right? But that isn't to say that the lived experience that resulted in that language being formed is always positive. So, my major issue, because you're probably wondering, oh my gosh, she's having this whole conversation about semantics and blah, 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 blah. I do work in comms, forgive me. But it's not about semantics, right? It's about the fact that I've now approached you as a person, whether that's in a professional or personal capacity, because you've utilized certain language and nomenclature in how you describe what's important to you, your value system, etc. And then when I call upon you to act on those things, you look at me like I'm crazy. So, for example, I think something that needs to be iterated over and over and over again is that the cost of community is inconvenience, right? So people can mention, okay, it's really important for me to have community, like that's a really important word. Yeah, it's good for me to have people, whatever, whatever. But for you to be able to nurture a community that's solid, that backs you, that does all of these things, it means sometimes someone's going to call you at 2 a.m. and be like, yo, dude, I'm in a bind. Can you help me out? And guess what? You got to help them out. Even if you feel like, damn, dude, this is like, and I think we also, again, another iteration of this problem of adopting language without understanding the way it's practically applied is we've overutilized this language around boundaries. And so there's this whole thing of like, my boundaries first. There is no semblance of community that can be formed when the individual's boundaries are consistently being prioritized and put ahead of the community's sustenance. There is no way that you can actually form bonds and relationships with people if there isn't a bit of push and pull, a bit of inconvenience, a bit of this would have looked better in this way, or whatever. That is how you learn each other. That is how you grow together. And that is how you build a trust that goes beyond, the good times and the good vibes and the wonderful language you can use about community. You know what I mean? So I don't want to yappa for too long, but I think for me, to summarize Simo Night Live, my thing is I just feel as though we need to bring back inconvenience and the mess that is part and parcel of formulating and maintaining long-term relationships, building community, so on and so forth, especially in this current time when community building is incredibly important, right? Like the systems and the structures are doing shakara over there in the corner. They're doing shakara, okay? Like we are plundering into fascism, ladies and gentlemen. That's not funny. It's actually not funny, and I didn't think I'd be living through it either. It's not funny. It's not a joke. But really and truly right now, we need to continue to sustain what has already been pushed for, because they're coming for it. They're coming for our rights. They're coming for our liberties. They're coming for our personhood, right? And the least we can do is sustain the changes that we've made. Even if there's not enough critical momentum to push to change things even further, what we need to do right now critically is to maintain, right? And maintaining is going to involve a lot of inconvenience. A lot of inconvenience, because it's going to be harder and harder and harder to apply the behavior, the culture, the mannerisms of community, because systems and structures are making it harder and harder for us to do that every day. It's really giving, you might as well ditch this one because you're going to drown, and you might as well jump onto the ship that's going to float with all the rich people, right? And it's like, that's how they get you. That's how they get you. So that's why this yap is important, because I think we are getting way too comfortable with using naming and words and cute little buzzwords around community, and it is dangerous, 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 dangerous. And you know what? Yeah, if this seems like I don't think so, I think I can still use the language, and I think personally for me, my personal, that's fine. Just stop cosplaying and hoodwinking people. This is real life catfishing that people are doing out there, and it's scary. It's scary. Do you know what? If you want to actually just be an individual and you don't want people to bother you, that's fine. But don't come and now bother others who said, me personally, I would like to be in community. I would like to have the inconvenience that comes with being in community. Don't go and bother people. Don't go and bother other people's children. Thank you.